Hello everyone, NathForst here. Religion is so insidious because it makes a virtue out of faith, a blind belief in the unknowable. Faith is an intricate part of religious life, and it manifests itself in numerous ways. There is moderate religious faith and fundamental faith. We see evidence of both in our everyday lives. Moderates among the faithful tend to be flexible in their interactions with opposing viewpoints, and integrate easier into cultures with differing opinions. Fundamentalists among the faithful, however, are rigid in their philosophy. A viewpoint from 1,000 years ago is as relevant to them today as it was for their forebears. While the moral zeitgeist of the rest of the world moves forward, these individuals are ever stuck in the past. In a technologically advanced civilization where nuclear, biological, and chemical weaponry are standard issue for governments worldwide, this presents a very dangerous problem. We are caught between the ancient and the new, between progressive and dogmatic ideals. On one side we have science, which is responsible for the comforts, tools, and means of globalization that each and every one of us enjoy in our daily lives. Science is progressive in its reasoning. The very principles held within the scientific method are non-dogmatic. Science is ever-changing and ever-adapting. On the other hand, we have religious fundamentalism that pretends to have all the answers. In its very nature, religion is dogmatic. Aggressive memes propagate faster and thus remain active for longer periods of time in the memetic pool. Both Christianity and Islam were spread by aggression. By this token, we can account for an estimated 2 billion Christians and 1.4 billion Muslims in the world today. If it had not been for the tip of the sword, these memes would have faded away long ago, and we would have something else in their place entirely. Christianity may well have evolved past the height of its barbarism, but that cannot yet be said for Islam. Many Muslims will have you believe that Islam is the religion of peace. They rebuke the actions of fundamental extremists, saying that they do not reflect the faith of Islam, the will of Allah. There is a saying that reflects this kind of behavior in Christendom. It goes something like this: if all Christians who thought other Christians were not true Christian disappeared, there would be no more Christians left. This is apparently true for Islam as well. As a certain Muslim here on YouTube told me, you cannot judge Islam for the actions of the ones who follow it. Then, may I ask, how exactly are we supposed to criticize Islam? If, after all, you cannot judge the meme by the ones who believe in it, how the hell are you supposed to judge it? After all, a belief in itself is nothing. It takes people to pass on a meme. It takes people to act on it. Few other religions are responsible for the amount of strife, violence, and sheer toll of death that Islam has amassed in the modern world. We have all seen the evidence of rioting, terrorist attacks, brutal executions, brutal Islamic theocracies, and the abuse of women. It is the latter that I'm going to focus on in this video. Granted, not all Muslims agree with the fundamentalists. Not all Muslims agree with the executions of homosexuals and apostates. Not all Muslims treat their women like property and force them to wear burqas and hijabs. To say otherwise would be fear-mongering and blatant bigotry. However, the Islamic faith leaves the door wide open for abuse and misogyny. Surah 4, verse 34 says, "Men have authority over women, because God has made the one superior to the other, and because they spend their wealth to maintain them. Good women are obedient. They guard their unseen parts because God has guarded them. As for those from whom you fear disobedience, admonish them, forsake them in beds apart, and beat them. Then if they obey you, take no further action against them. Surely, God is high, supreme. To a Westerner, this verse is quite horrifying. Our women are equal to us, and the very thought of committing an act of violent abuse against a woman is enough to turn the stomach of most Western males. Muslim apologists will have you believe that this is not an accurate interpretation of the verse. They say that, if indeed you have to use force, you, quote, beat, end quote, in such a way not to cause pain. Some scholars even suggest using a tool such as a toothbrush or a washcloth, in which to show one's disapproval with one's wife. Yes, you heard me correctly. This is, of course, what the Quran meant. I can just picture a disgruntled man standing next to his wife, lightly tapping her with a toothbrush. Oh, how horrified she must feel. She will indeed change her wicked ways. If Islam is such a religion of peace, why the double speak? Why the apologists? Why is the use of force needed at all? Why not just get rid of that entire goddamn verse? Surah 24, verse 31 says, "Enjoin believing women to turn their eyes away from temptation and to preserve their chastity." Not to display their adornments, except such as normally revealed, to draw their veils over their bosoms, and not to display their finery, except to their husbands, their fathers, their husbands' fathers, their sons, their stepsons, their brothers' sons, their sisters' sons, their women servants, and their slave girls. Male attendants lacking in natural vigor, and children who have no carnal knowledge of women. And let them not stamp their feet when walking so as to reveal their hidden trinkets. This verse demonstrates that Allah wants women to cover themselves up in order to not tempt men. This is classic misogyny, where women are looked down upon as temptresses, and a man's lust is actually a woman's fault. I guess it has something to do with original sin, being that Eve was the one that tempted Adam. This kind of misogyny is present in Christianity as well. I know, I grew up with it all around me. Both Islam and Christianity view sex and the naked human body as a dirty and sinful thing. This kind of attitude is unhealthy and can lead to confusion and trauma in both children and adults. An interesting verse that I came across while reading the Quran is in Surah 33, verse 50. In this verse, we are told that Allah has made the following women available to the Prophet Muhammad: slave girls, and yes, slavery is as part of the Quran as it is part of the Bible. No surprise there. The daughters of his paternal and maternal uncles and aunts, and any believing woman who gives herself to the Prophet and whom the Prophet wishes to take in marriage. This privilege is only for the Prophet, being granted to no other believer. Allah has granted unto Muhammad a harem. You would expect that, wouldn't you? What does this remind you of? When will humanity learn that blind faith in archaic writings only serves to cheapen human life? A certain Muslim here on YouTube told me that he would lose all hope in humanity if mankind did not embrace Islam as universal truth. To this I ask, why? Why not live for the moment, embrace life with passion? Why not love each other and care for each other, not for some misplaced loyalty to some dipshit in the sky, but because we wish to make the world a more beautiful place for our posterity? Look at the universe. Look at what surrounds us. We tend to think that what we see immediately around us is all there is. We forget the enormity of it all. We forget that we are not the center of the universe, but instead a part of it. Do you honestly believe the entire universe was created just for us? How conceited. How dishonest. How sad. My version of the Quran is from the Penguin Classics Publishing Company and was written by N.J. Dawood. Mr. Dawood was born and raised in Baghdad.